Good afternoon, my name is Camden and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, as you can see from the title, we are going to be reading like a Taurus. My birthday is coming up in a few days. It's on May 16th, which means that I am in fact a Taurus, as is my husband. We have a very Taurus-y household over here. I do not know a lot about astrology, if I'm being honest, but I was curious to know if there are book recommendations specifically geared to your astrological sign. So I did a little bit of research online and I was able to find an article of book recommendations for a Taurus. I have some footage of myself from about a week ago reacting to the article, so I will insert those clips here now, and then I will come back to let you know which books I was able to pick up from that list. Hello. Please ignore my wildly untamed hair today, but I wanted to go through and read you guys the article that I found. It's called The Perfect Book Recommendations for Taurus. I don't know much about Taurus. I know that we are stubborn. Our little mascot guy is the bull, and also that we love food. And that's really everything that I know about Tauruses. Okay, so time to dig your heels in the ground because Taurus season is upon us. This is the time for the sign of the bull. While our Taurus friends are famous for their stubbornness and independence, they are also very patient and reliable. Feels like being stubborn and patient is opposites. They're known for always answering the call when needed and rushing to your side when you need a shoulder. It's pretty accurate. I'm a pretty good friend. They enjoy exploring the senses, enjoying tasty delights, very true, and holding on strongly to things they care about most deeply. Check out these books below that are sure to appeal to our friends of the bull. Alright, number 1, Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I feel like I recognize this cover, but I know nothing about this book. Taurians, as I said before, are quite famous for their stubbornness, but are also steadfast and determined in their romantic pursuits. All of those characteristics can be found in Liz Buxbaum from Better Than the Movies. Liz is determined to get her childhood crush Michael to ask her to prom, so she hatches a plan with her annoying next-door neighbor Wes to make Michael notice and fall in love with her. But the more time she spends with Wes, the more she realizes she likes spending time with him. This satisfying love story will be a delight to our Taurus friends until the very last page. Okay, so that one's an option. I'm gonna have to go through and see if I'm able to source these books from somewhere, like my library or Scribd or Libby or something like that. I'm hoping maybe there will be some books on this list that I own, but that might be a little too much to hope for. So let's keep going. Number 2, A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey. I've definitely seen this book around. But I don't really know anything about it. My foodie Taurus friends will absolutely love A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. The descriptions of food will have your mouth watering. I mean, there's an entire chapter dedicated to the Cuban sandwich. Not to mention the love interest Orion showcases the devotion and trustworthiness of any great Taurus partner. That's so weird because I just read The Last True Poets of the Sea, and one of the characters was named Orion. So apparently we have another Orion in this book. Yeah, I would definitely love to check this one out. It looks cute, and interested to read about a Cuban sandwich, you know? Next. Number 3, We Are the Wildcats by Siobhan Vivian. I've definitely seen this book. I feel like people were kind of iffy about this one. Maybe, and I'm not really a huge fan of like sports books, but I suppose we could give it a try. Like our fellow Taurus, the characters in We Are the Wildcats hold friendship closely to their hearts. They support their friends through thick and thin and value these relationships above all else. In this novel, we meet a group of kick-ass female athletes who discover how to come together as a team over the duration of 24 unforgettable hours. This one kind of plays on the loyalty aspect of a Taurus, so that might be cool. Another good option. Continue on. Watch Over Me by Mila Gray. Just looking at this cover, I'm gonna probably almost guarantee that this will not be one of the ones I read. If you're looking for a decadent love story this month, sink into this gripping YA romance between Zoe and her best friend ex-Marine Tristan. How do you have a YA romance and an ex-Marine? I feel like not for me. Moving on. To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. I absolutely love this book. Looking back, it's not really like the best book you could ever read, but I really related to Lara Jean a lot, and I loved all of the scenes with her family and how like close they all were, and the scenes of her baking and having her own like style and getting dressed and stuff. It wasn't the central love story, it was like all of the surrounding aspects that made this book like truly lovely. So anyway, that is a great option. Taurus Stamp of Approval. Number 6, When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. I have read this book. I didn't like it. I understand where they're coming from of why they would recommend this, because I feel like Dimple is a very stubborn character, and that's probably what they're drawing off of. But she was such a rude biatch to Rishi, and it drove me nuts. No Taurus Stamp of Approval on this one. Hungry Hearts, edited by Caroline Tung Richmond and Elsie Chapman. I own this one. It's the first one I've owned. Get ready to open up your taste buds with this sensational collection of foodie adventures that will leave every reader hungry and craving for more. Hungry Hearts features 13 short stories about the intersection of family, culture, and food, featuring many of our favorite treats from pastries to dumplings. A Taurus and all our fellow foodies will appreciate this delightful read. Okay, I'm gonna definitely say yes on this one because it's one that I already own, so it won't be too hard to track it down because it's right over there. So book number 1, Hungry Hearts. I'm not always a huge fan of anthologies, so I'm not sure how that will go. Okay, number 8 is Slay by Brittany Morris. I have heard of this book. I've actually heard a lot of good things about this book. As we've learned, our Taurus friends are nothing if not driven and determined to accomplish all that they set their mind to, which is why they will definitely relate to Kiara Johnson, the very intelligent and successful computer programmer in Slay. By day, Kiara is the perfect honors student and one of the only black kids at her school, but Kiara has a secret identity. She's the developer of a popular video game called Slay that's played by thousands of black gamers worldwide. Okay, number 9 is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. Oh, and this is the last one. This one is deep into a series. So I might be wrong, but I don't think you can read this one without having read the others. During this month of the Earth sign, our Taurus friends are especially excited to dig into the natural world, which is why they will delight in sinking into Chain of Gold. The cover alone, which shines with gold and copper tones, will catch their attention, and that's before they dig into the daring adventures Cordelia Carstairs and her friends are about to embark on. I do love the cover. However, I'm probably not going to gravitate towards this one just because I don't know if I'll be spoiling myself for any of her other books if I read it. So, the ones that I'm interested in are Slay, Hungry Hearts, but I'm definitely going to read that one. We Are the Wildcats, A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow, and Better Than the Movies. Since recording that clip, I have been on the hunt for some books from the list to read in this video. The first one that I have, as I mentioned before, is Hungry Hearts. This one is an anthology collection by a bunch of different authors, and it's one that I already owned before this video. The next one that I have is A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. I was able to reserve this one at my library. And then the last book that I have to read in this video is We Are the Wildcats by Siobhan. Vivian. This one is available on my Scribd app as an audiobook, so I will be reading it there. So yeah, those are the books that we're going to be reading in this video, and I will let you know, as a Taurus, if these recommendations hold up at all. A little rough. I hope it doesn't pick up on camera too much. Anyway, I wanted to pop in and give you a reading update because I was able to finish the audiobook of We Are the Wildcats by Siobhan. Vivian, I'm not gonna lie, it was not my favorite ever. In fact, I only gave it a 2 stars, which is definitely rare for me. I'm not a super picky reader. I tend to lean on the side of enjoying things. Even if the book provides me like some amount of entertainment, I usually rank it a 3 star. But the reason that I am downgrading this one to a 2 star is that we are kind of dealing with some heavy material in this book. Basically, in this book, we are following a girls' high school field hockey team. They've just gone through tryouts and they are about to have their very first scrimmage match of the season. But the night before the scrimmage match, their coach is supposed to present them with their varsity jerseys. He ends up not presenting them with their jerseys and setting them off on like a mission to prove their worthiness because they failed him last year by not winning a championship. Throughout the book, the girls are participating in some team bonding activities. They're pulling some pranks. They're trying to prove themselves to their coach. While on the other hand, the coach is displaying more and more problematic behavior throughout the book. He is having an inappropriate, and I would almost categorize it as like grooming relationship with 2 of the girls. He totally ignores racist comments that are being lobbied at some of his team members. He interferes in their life prevents them from going to family gatherings. He interferes with one girl's college application. Over the course of the book, we're learning about more and more behavior that is absolutely disgusting and very problematic. And in the end, there's really no justice for it. In YA books especially, I feel like it is an author's duty to handle material like this very, very carefully. Who knows what type of situations your readers are dealing with, and if they are going through a similar situation, I would hope that the lesson that they would take away is that they should always go to a parent or a teacher, that they should report this behavior, that this behavior deserves someone getting fired. And I don't mean to spoil the ending of this book for anyone, but there's simply not enough consequences for his actions for it to sit right with me. I feel like these teen girls deserved way better, and I feel like any reader who is reading this and using this as kind of a measuring stick for the behavior of problematic adults in their lives, they deserve better too. That's just my opinion though, and if it was an adult novel, I might have gone a little bit easier on it. I still think it would have bothered me, but because it's YA, I just expect a lot more resolution and retribution, honestly. But anyway, so that one is a 2-star. Not the hugest fan. Apart from that, I did enjoy kind of like the team spirit element of the book, and I think that as a Taurus, that's kind of what they were marketing it for, like the loyalty and the friendship and the trust. Those are all kind of like Taurus traits, I guess. So I think those were the things that were supposed to appeal to me, and they did. But the whole picture I enjoyed less. So that is the update on that. Okay, I am 150 pages in, and there's this line I need somebody to explain to me. In Africa, Jules asked, scooting closer. Yeah, it's one of the reasons I didn't want to leave Miami. I thought after a couple weeks she'd show back up on my porch and realize all we'd planned was bigger than fieldwork. She'd realize maybe Africa wasn't for her. I mean, the Steph I knew was a picky eater and couldn't go 2 days without her hairdryer. Are we just pretending that Africa, the continent, can all be lumped together, and also that there's no electricity in Africa? I'm confused. Hello. I have been waiting for either this book or Hungry Hearts to have some food in it that I could cook for this video. So I finally found it. I am on chapter 21 and they are making arroz con pollo. So I went to the store and I got the ingredients so we can make it together. All right, we got some skin on thighs, got some chicken stock, rice, bell pepper, onion, and a variety of spices. Hello, I have a reading update for you, which is that I have finished A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey. This book follows a Cuban girl from Miami who has been dealing with a lot of different changes in her life. First, her abuela, who she has a very close relationship with, ends up passing away. Then she gets into a breakup with her boyfriend. Then her best friend decides that she's gonna do some miscellaneous charity work in the continent of Africa somewhere. Our main character Leela is not handling these changes very gracefully and kind of is having like a mental breakdown. So her family ends up shipping her across the pond to England to spend some time with a good family friend. Let me start off with the pros. I did like the cooking aspect in this book. Leela is a very talented baker and cook, and she is kind of set on running her grandmother's bakery when she returns to the States. The descriptions of food in this book were amazing. I feel like the Cuban culture that this book tied in was really, really great. And I also really enjoyed watching her kind of explore England. On the con side, I wasn't actually a huge fan of the relationship that forms between her and her love interest Orion. I just didn't really find the chemistry between the two of them to be all that believable. I also really didn't like the best friend breakup aspect of this book. I think it could have been really, really great, but it was totally overshadowed by the other two problems that Leela was dealing with, and it didn't get the screen time or page time that it deserved. I feel like the author just wanted a good round number of 3 and just threw this in without really taking the time to develop this plot point, as evidenced by the fact that she basically just threw Africa under the bus, like the entire continent, and did not go into any details as to where Stephanie was going, what she was doing there. I mean, what volunteer work was she actually doing there? And at the end of the book, there was really no resolution to this whole thing. She doesn't talk to Stephanie anywhere throughout the book. She barely even talks about it to other people. And then at the very end, we just got a kind of thrown together wrap up that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Overall, my biggest gripe is that I just felt that the plot needed more to it. It dragged in a lot of areas, and I found myself really bored in some areas, and if I wasn't reading this for a video, I probably would have put it down or gotten too bored to continue. I'm giving it 3-star, but I definitely feel like if you ask me a question about this book in 3 months, I will not remember a single character's name. I won't remember a single thing that happens, and the only thing I will remember is the food. I find it interesting that I have not really enjoyed any of these books, and to be honest, I'm not really enjoying Hungry Hearts either from what I've read of it so far. Anyway, I am going to try and power through the last few stories of Hungry Hearts, which means that it's time for a reading montage. Hello. I finished Hungry Hearts and I hated it. I don't think I've ever filmed a reading vlog where I have not liked a single book that I read, so I guess it was about time that this happened. But I did not like a single book that I read in this video, which is funny because they're supposed to be geared towards me. But I guess this is the risk I run when I don't pick out the books for myself. I'm not a huge fan of anthologies at the best of times. I really like short stories, but reading short story collections, I feel like sometimes there's not enough time to develop any type of feelings about a character or a story, and not enough time to develop a plot. So what I prefer more is like a 50-page book. But when I do read an anthology collection, I like them to be not connected to each other in any way. You give a bunch of authors a general theme, they all write a story in that general theme, and the characters aren't supposed to know each other, the setting is not the same, they're not the same events happening, and that's what I like. This book did something that I hate, which is trying to make the authors all connect the stories together. I've read other books like this, and I don't tend to like them. But this book was the worst execution I have ever seen of this type of a book. I feel like there was not a strong enough connection between any of these stories. We had some stories that contained magic, some stories that were completely mundane. We had some stories that were about restaurant owners, some stories about just randos wandering through this neighborhood. We had some stories where there were significant festivals or competitions. The rest of the stories would not mention any of these events whatsoever. We also had a ton of different crimes happening that nobody else would reference. In one story, there's a blood sacrifice. Nobody mentions it in any other story. In another story, there is gang activity. Nobody else mentions gang activity in the area. Another story talked about a missing child. Nobody else had anything to say about this missing child. It just was so discombobulated, and I didn't like the way that this was executed at all. However, if I'm going to give some positive feedback on this, there were a couple of authors that put out really good stories, and authors that I have not read from before that now I want to pick up some of their full-length work to see what else they do. Overall, I really hated how this book was set up and how it didn't really follow a theme in any way. I feel like what would have made this story a heck of a lot better would be just to have a theme of food and magic and not make any of the authors try to connect their stories together. Anyway, that is every book read, which means that it is time for me to end this video. I feel like I should give you some final thoughts because this was kind of like a little bit of an experiment. I guess my final thoughts are I did enjoy every part of these books that were geared toward Tauruses, but having loyal friends or interesting food descriptions is just not enough to carry a book. I need to have strong writing, interesting plot, interesting characters, good dynamics between characters, a plot flow and pacing that makes sense. So while these added details do enhance a story, you need to have a strong story to begin with. So yeah, that's the conclusion. None of these books get the Taurus stamp of approval. I'm disappointed in all of them. Go wish me a happy birthday in the comments. Okay, love you. Bye.